Everyone. So today we are going to dive into the world of JavaScript. One essential tool for embedding JavaScript code into an HTML file is the script tag, which we will be learning about in just a few moments. It plays a crucial role in executing JavaScript functions, manipulating HTML elements, and handling various events. So let's dive right into it. So the script tag is used to add JavaScript code directly into your file, so you can use that JavaScript to manipulate your HTML. So let me show you how can you add a JavaScript code. So if let's say you have a file, as you can see here, as script.js. Currently it's empty, as you can see, but we want to reference this in here, so we will use something like this. Script src equals javascript.js here, and then we will close the brackets, and there we go. So now anything I write in this file, I can use it to manipulate here. Also, we can use uh, something called as inline scripting, which you can do in the HTML body itself. So let's say I want to send an alert message as soon as a person logs in on my web page. So let's do it. Script, and then let's write something like alert, welcome to this awesome web page, and let's save it and see. As soon as I came on the page, this alert, welcome to this awesome web page, and congratulations, you just wrote first piece of your JavaScript code. You have written your first piece of JavaScript code. Now I would like to introduce you to some more JavaScript methods, like get element by ID and get elements by class name. As you might have already studied in the CSS tutorial, you can add IDs and class names to your components. So for example, as for h1, I can have like a class which is equal to my first my first class, and I can add an ID that says cool ID. Okay, so now let's see how can I use this class name or this ID name to manipulate this text which I've written, which apparently says hello guys, welcome to JS tutorial. So let's dive right into it. Okay, so mm, I'm not going to write this thing in my script.js. I will do inline scripting for this, so you can see the code and the HTML. So let's go. So I'll start with, say, constant element equals, first tell you about get element by ID. So let's do document this dot get element by ID. Now we will reference the ID, which is cool ID in our case. So let's write it cool ID, and that's it. So now we have reference. Now this element, this variable element, stores the attributes of our h1 element. So now let's go and manipulate it. So element dot inner html equals content is changed. So now what this does, it will change the content of this whole thing. So now when it's, so wait, I'll just show you. So as you can see, now the thing changed. Even though I wrote here that hello guys, welcome to JS tutorial, it's not showing this. Instead it's showing this. Let's see if we want to add this in the end of this thing. So what I can do this plus equals content.js. So now if I do it, it will say, hello guys, welcome to JS tutorial, and then it will concatenate the string, which is this, afterwards. So see, yeah, so this technically is something like element.inner.html equals element.inner.html plus content is changed. I'm using a shorthand representation here. And you can also change CSS properties. We will discuss about changing CSS properties later in the video, but just to give you some taste of it, I'll just try to change the color of the text. So let's say do style. This style attribute, it's related to the CSS. So what style do we want to change? We want to change the color. Let's change the color to red. You can also add the hex code, but it's okay if you write the name. And let's see, and there you go, the color is changed to red now. I hope you understood how you can manipulate the DOM by IDs. Now let's try to see how we can manipulate DOM by using class names. Just so you know, IDs are unique, but for class it's not the same. People usually use class when they have to group a lot of elements together. So let's say, let me do this, give me a sec, let me write one more. h1 class my first class second line h1. So for class, as you can see in the ID, when I do the const element, it just returns me a single element. But if I do a class, it will return me an array of elements which has the same class name, and afterwards I will have to loop through them to manipulate the DOM. So let's do it. So let's do const element document that get element by class name now instead of ID, and we will change cool ID to my first class. Now this element will have an array. So what we can do is we can use a for loop here. For let I equals 0, I less than element dot length. I think you might have learned about dot length while we were studying about arrays in the previous chapter. So yeah, we are trying to find the length of the array, and we will do I++. And now what do we want to do about this? Let's change the color of our thing to let's say yellow. I'll paste it here, I'll delete this one, and then just do element, and then I will add the index will be I, sorry about the capital case, yeah, I dot style dot color equals red. Instead of red, let's do something else, let's do yellow. Let's save it. So now as you can see, oh sorry, I see it, it's get elements by class name. Now I think it will work, and you can see, oh sorry about that, the background is too weird. Let's try changing the background color as well. So dot style dot background color equals to black. Why not? And as you can see, the background color is changed to black. So let me show you. We can do a few fun things with this. Not really fun, but yeah, they are actually good. So let me just do like make 5 things, and then let me do like edit the 3rd line, 4th line, 5th line. So let's say I want to do like like alternative colors. So what I can do here is I can have an if condition, like if I divided by 2 is equals to 0. That means if my I is an even number, then I want this to be this of this style. But if it's not, I want it to be of something different. Let's say the yellow will become red and the background color will become white. Now let's try and run this. As you can see, we got it. So like when like 0 is odd technically, because 0 divided by 2 will become 0, so it is, sorry, even, my bad. So you have the yellow text color with black background for this, and when you on the odd, that's when I becomes 1, it gives you second line and with white color. So that is something. So I hope you understood when we use get elements by class name and when to use get element by ID. Next, we will learn into a bit detail about how do you modify CSS. So there are quite a few ways to modify CSS. I'm just going to talk about them. You already saw element.style here, but there is one more that's called as class list property. You can use that to add and remove classes which have different CSS properties assigned to them. And then also you can use one more method that's called a set attribute, which will assign your HTML element different CSS styles. So I already talked about element.style earlier, so I will start to talk about class list property and how you can use this property to manipulate classes. Changing the code, so for adding class list, we will not use this method. We will use get element by ID. So I'll just get rid of the whole thing here. And also, so how class list method works, so let's say you have let me create an element. Let's say P, I am a new element. So as you can see here, it has no CSS styling this new element. But if you see here, we have a class here, my first class. It also has no styling, so let's first add some style to our this class. Tag. So let me open. Now let's add some CSS to my first class. So you probably know that the identifier for referencing a class is dot. So this means that I am trying to reference a class here. And now I will write some basic CSS attributes. So let's say color. Let's make our color to be red, and background color to be black. Let's see how does everything look. And as you can see, all of our elements which have the class name as my first class have these things, you know, the new CSS properties, but our this element P has none of those properties. So how do we add these properties to this? Well, we can do one thing which we already did, something like this. Const element equals document get element by ID, and the ID, oh, we don't have an ID assigned to it, so let me assign an ID, new element. So new element. So the first thing we can do is do something like this. element dot style dot color equals red, and then same thing, element dot style dot background color, and sorry, this will be camel case equals black. So if I run this, our new element will become same as our old one. But there is another way to do it without writing this much code, and that is to use something called as class list property. So I will just remove this and show you how. So you already got the element here. So what you do, you add element and then do a class list, and then since we want to add the css of this class to our this one, we'll just write dot add, and then we will say the name of the class. So that's my first class. Sorry, not first class. So now if I save it, I'll again have this. Now let's say I want to remove it. Better yet, let's make a new class. Let's do a class which we haven't even added anywhere. So let's do my class name highlight. So let's do, for highlight, we will just have a background color of yellow, and text color will remain the same as black. And let's see, instead of adding my first class, I will do something called as highlight, and now when I do this, I have this class added to it. And now let's say I already have a class added here called highlight to my element. I want to remove it. Yes, you can do this with the class's property. You can remove this class. So I will just write, instead of add, I will just write remove, and then I run it again, and see, everything is gone. That's it. And now let's move on to another method that's called a set attribute. Well, technically you will not see people using set attribute as often. You'll see them using the other two methods. Set attribute method, it's kind of similar to the element.style method. So we already have this element here which has a class of highlight, and this is how this thing looks because we are removing the class highlight. Just give me a sec. Remove this. So originally our element has a size of like this. Let's say I want to make this thing red color with a yellow background, and maybe increase the font size as well. So how I can accomplish this by using set attribute is by passing all the style as a string. So let me show you. So para element dot set attribute. So I want to, what attribute I want to manipulate? I want to manipulate the style attribute of my component. So I'll address style, and with what I want to manipulate it with. So I will send whatever CSS properties I want. Similarly, like this, technically like this, you'll write everything as you would do in here. No quotation marks, nothing. So like style, I wanted to change it to red, so I'll do color red, and then a semicolon. What's the next property I want to change? Let's say I want to make it a bit bigger, so font size. Pay close attention. While using set attribute property, you don't have to use camel case. You can do hyphen and size, okay, like you would do here up here in the style tag. So font size of 25 pixels. Oh, my bad, it should be inside quotations mark. 25 pixels. And now let's save it and run it. Now you can see the thing has turned to red and with an increased 25 pixel size. So this concludes our lesson on dynamically modifying CSS styles using JavaScript. It's your job to keep practicing and use these to make something cool. Thank you for watching this video for so long. I'll meet you in the next one, in which we'll talk a bit more about event listeners like on click, on hover, etc.